Hey YouTube. Alright, this is the last video I'm going to do on this. This is that lower unit. And dark in here. It's raining outside today. But I'll get some light. Kind of hold around. Why that's not getting in focus very good. There it is. There is that little stainless steel spring tab I made to hold that wiring in place, and this is all mounted. Get around here. I want you to see how thin boy, my focus isn't working very good. That is behind there. Anyway, that sits over that little cone-shaped rubber part of this wire and helps keep that stabilized down in that hole so it won't fail on the pressure and vacuum. And I've got the water pump, the impeller and housing, everything put back on it now. I apologize, my phone camera seems to not be very happy right now, but I'm going to set this light down for a minute. Just remember, you can make this little clip, and it'll help you to seal this unit up if you're having problems right here. Make sure that's tight to the wire. Another thing I did here, I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if you can see that little spot. When you go to putting this back in here, see if I can show you. See how that's kind of flat? When you're putting this back on the motor and you feed your wiring back up through the lower unit up top, this thing has a tendency to want to sit over the top of this bolt, and I want to wipe that with my shirt, I'm sorry. Maybe that'll help this thing. Maybe it'll help it be a little clearer. Anyway, what I'm getting at is when you're pushing this up into the motor, this lower unit, this wire has a tendency to want to come over here and get over the top of this bolt. And this bolt, basically there's no clearance above this bolt in that housing, and so if that wire's on there, it's going to pinch it, which is what it started to do to me as I was working the unit up in. And I was like, why isn't this going up? And this has been one of the times in the past I did it. But anyway, so to prevent that, a lot of stuff under my feet. Basically, I've put a zip tie right here around the wire, and that keeps it tight up in this housing, and so it won't have a tendency to want to come over here, in other words. And this is just, these are the knife connectors. They're just sitting down in this hole here temporarily. But now let's move on. These another little fun thing I did to this to make taking it in and out easy. And I know you guys probably never have seen something like that before. But I flared those plastic tubes, and if you've put one of these up in, getting both those things lined up is almost near impossible. and it can be a real chore. So what I did, I'm running my feet here, is if you heat up vegetable oil on the stovetop, and you don't want it too hot, just where it starts dancing just a little bit, maybe a little saucepan, and your oil is at least an inch deep or so, and it starts to getting hot. You can I'm going to pull one of these out of here. You can dip the end of this in that vegetable oil. Say this is your vegetable oil. You just for a second or two, and the oil's not real hot, and that's going to make this plastic very pliable and allow you to do what you want with it. Now, in my case, I just took, and I don't know if it was this ball peen, but I just took the round end of the ball peen while it was hot like that, and just gently set it on there. And I think it may have been this ball peen here, but I just gently set it on there while it was hot right after I took it off the grease, and it flares that end just enough to make it easy to get those tubes, the copper tubes coming down from the motor, to start and go in there. So that'll help you on those. Again, anything you try is at your own risk, and I'm not responsible. Now then, last time on the last video we had this in a water tub, and it did really well on the pressure test, and I brought it in here and hooked up the vacuum, this handheld little unit I showed you from Harbor Freight, and it failed immediately, and everything else had been replaced on this thing except for, and you know where I'm headed here, the seals on that prop shaft. Now then, I'm going to come over here for a second. I can get a nice light on there where you can see them nicely, but there's two brand new seals in there, and now it does pass the pressure test with flying colors. So this thing is sealed up now. I did the down and dirty hack way of taking those seals out. You can see I just slowly, these were stacked on top of each other like we talked about, and I just slowly started working around and pulling these out. Now this one was the outside one, and you can kind of see, and these may be the originals because they're brass, and the ones that I'm getting OEM are just kind of a stainless steel lip on those, but you can see these are brass, so these may be the old originals. I don't know. I don't see how they could be, but anyway, that's how I got those out. You can look at videos online. There's a bunch of guys that's done them on how to pull those seals without having to pull that prop shaft housing, which I was hoping not to have to do that, because as we all know, that's just near impossible, number one. Number two, on this one, there's no place to get a hold of it. Let me hang this up in here for a minute. Basically, the way I get it, you've got to make some some hooks, and there's not even one in the center. This bottom one's solid. There's not even a way to hook something around it. I don't know if you can see in there. I can get in there where you can see in there, but there's nothing to hook to down there. So pulling this thing, you'd be pulling on these two sides if you had to do a kind of a homemade setup, and you wouldn't be pulling out of the center. And I've seen some pictures of these broke, and I imagine people were trying to get them out. And I'm sure there's a factory tool to do it, but just like everybody else, I'm not gonna have the money to spend on it. So regardless, it is sealed up and happy now. So getting ready to put it back in. It is full of oil. I pumped it in from the bottom fill plug until it ran out the top. Put the top fill plug bolt in, unhook the oil line, let a little run out, and then plug that up. So that's where this is at. Be careful with these water pump housing bolts. Don't over torque these. About 60 inch-pounds. The book says 60 to 80, but this casting is really soft, and so I would not go. I'll just go with 60 inch-pounds and call it good. There's a little seal here that sits up against the housing, up in the lower end. But that's about it on this lower unit section of this thing. I really thought my clip over the wire here was a cool little idea, and I hope maybe it'll help somebody else if you decide to make your own. So I'll get a straight on shot of that. Maybe, if it'll ever focus. My phone will not focus. I just wanted to show you how that rolls up. Basically, it's flat right under the bolt, rolls up just a little bit and goes over, but it's got the 2 holes for the bolts and then a hole to run around the wire. Anyway, that really helps push that thing down and keep it pushed down in there, sealed up. On those seals, a lot of guys will use I believe it's 3M 847, which is impossible to find around here, very expensive. I opted out of that for the seals. I went with this, it's just a gasket sealant. It's VersaChem. It was a couple dollars from the auto parts store, so that's just what I put around the outside of both the seals. And I kind of played with it a little bit to see what it was going to do and how it was going to dry and everything, and I liked it. So, and it is has a really high resistance of what it says on what is going on with this camera. I mean, it will not focus. I don't get it. I really apologize for that. Maybe because I'm so shaky here. Maybe that's the problem. Let me lean here for a minute. Jeez. Good grief. Anyway, it says gas, oil, kerosene, water, steam, and a bunch of other salt solutions, grease, and all kinds of stuff, synthetic and mild acids. So it's pretty tough stuff. Type 1 Versachem. That's what I used. I need to save every dollar I can. So, as far as pushing those in, I went up to the hardware store and just, you can see some videos on that. I got some Schedule 40 PVC. That just slid right over the end and fit up against those seals real nice. So that went in slick. Here is, like I said, it's raining here today. How you like my boat cover? I'll tell you what that is. That's conduit from the hardware store, and I made an A-frame that sits on the back deck with some tennis balls on it, and you see up there an A-frame up on the front deck, a couple of supports going up to the center over there. The top is two 10-footers, so this is 20 foot long, and then I've got a center foot down there with a ball in it, and this is the Ozark. This is the 79 Ozark, and that sets up in there real nice and easy. Has a nice pitch to it for snow and ice, and I don't have water in this boat anymore. So, and this tarp, you can get these tarps for $25–30 from Harbor Freight. So you get a year or two out of a tarp and have to put another one on it, and you're not paying somebody to make you a custom, which I'm not against that. I just, again, I've got to save all the dollars I can. So now I thought that you might want to see this motor. I'm going to get my drop light here. Some guys get into some wiring and they take things apart, and I'm the same way, and then how'd that go? Trying to remember what's what and where it went. This might help some of you guys later. I have no idea, but I will kind of slowly go around here and shoot how this 115 horsepower Johnson, how it looks. I don't know if this is going to help anybody. But this baby runs good. Look down in there. Good look at the wiring here, and some of the fuel connections. There's a T-fitting down there on the gas line. There's the manual choke rod. And in one of the videos we talked about this 79 100 horsepower Evinrude tilt and trim that was on this boat when I got it from my dad, which the motor was blown up, by the way. 3 cylinders were down, and that's the reason this 70's on this boat, because I picked it up. I traded a guy something that went bang for this motor, and you can see up under there good or not, but try and get I'll just do a slow walk around here. You can see some of the way these wires are running, where they're coming from. I thought about taking that cover off and showing you how those wires are all screwed into that bar across there, but water pump lines coming in to each side of the hedge. Let's see here. I don't know if this will help any of you guys or not if you're needing to see how something was. I haven't messed with really hardly any of this. There's the knife connectors that go to the wiring going down to the lower unit, and the hole is here's my green string, and you probably can't, I don't know if you can see that hole down there or not, but that's the hole back there, and that can be a burger to get that up through there. Put a little lube on that wire, that'll help you. This will probably be interesting for some of you to see, if I can get held still here. Is the throttle cable. There's the automatic clutch solenoid, or the choke solenoid, and yes, it's kind of, the spring right there is burgered up. I've just got it kind of stuck on there. Set this down over here. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that'll help somebody if they want to look at it. But that's how this boat's rigged up. And I'm getting ready to put the lower unit back in it. And I don't know if we'll be on the water this weekend, but it's just a fishing boat. There's a control up there, and I bought a little bimini top that goes up over this thing, so me and the wife and kids are on it. They can be in the shade. It gets awful hot here sometimes. Little I'll show you. I like going in and out. Here's that. Now I've got a tilt and trim switch here, and then I don't know if you can see it poking out there, but just on the other side of that throttle I've got a 3-way switch for the tilt and trim, and then I've got another one mounted to the sidewall up there when I'm up there on the trolling motor fishing. And having that tilt and trim, I'll just operate it here for a second. That makes it really nice for this boat. There's the, let me get down in here where you can see it. barely clears down there to get under there. Alright, that's that. Yeah. But anyway, we're going to put this baby back together. I hope some of this may have helped somebody. Like I say, I'm no pro at all. You can get a view of the front. That I don't mess with any of that. Haven't had to anyway. Very little. I've had it off a couple times, but I haven't changed really anything. The only adjustment that I've ever made on this thing is on this thumb screw, and that was just to bring the idle up a little on it. So it would start a little easier. Now it fires up pretty nice. So now that's all I got on this motor, and hopefully you guys are out there getting the line wet and playing on the water. And there's the old housing on that thing. I don't think there's anything else. Propeller's pretty straightforward. I think you guys have a good understanding on all that, probably, if you come any of this far as working on these things go. So, well, hopefully you guys get some use out of this. Maybe flare those tubes. That'll help you if you're taking these in and out. Hopefully you're not taking them out much other than to put an impeller in them. But and yes, I know that was like that when I got this thing. It was broke off of there. But I haven't done anything to it. I just left it exactly like it was. And anyway, that's all I got, YouTube. Just to recap a little bit, you can get those seals out. It's not a easy job. Pick and a small screwdriver and a little hammer or something. Start picking away at it, and just don't score the shaft, the propeller shaft, and don't score the aluminum housing that the seal sits in. But hopefully you guys are able to get a little something out of this, and if not, I'm sorry I wasted your time, but I was hoping maybe some guys would like to see that tilt and trim unit, and what I did on that wire to try and seal that up. And I appreciate your time. Thanks. Bye.